Welcome to Social Perspective. Today we have an article in the main page of The Hindu saying Delhi riots, three student activists get bail. High Court slams police for casually invoking anti-terror law, says right to protest not same as terrorist activity. What happened is allegedly these youth participated in the protest against the Citizenship Amendment Act, and the police have arrested them under the pretext of rallying against the government under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So High Court has slammed the police, saying invoking anti-terror law is not is not right against those individuals who are exercising their right to protest. Now, in social perspective, if you analyze this article rather than polity perspective, we get to land in the chapter of paper one, that is politics and society. In politics and society chapter, we have various types of political participation. According to Lester Milbath, political participation is classified into political apathetics. These kind of political participants know nothing about politics and what's happening in the society. They are completely unaware of the current events, uh, and not at all interested to participate in political debates or discussions. These are termed as political apathetics. These kind of people usually exist in large numbers in authoritarian societies. Second classification is political spectators. These kind of people participate in politics through voting, and they just participate in discussions and debates, but active participation cannot be seen. They are just spectators to what's happening in society. They are concerned about it, but they realize that they cannot do anything about it. Third kind of is transitional activists. These kind of people rebel against or protest against the unjust injustices happening in the society, and they try to express their dissent against the government in rallies, riots, protests, or various demonstrations, etc. Now, gladiators are someone who participate in elections after the protest. They have some alternative society or alternative political ideology in their mind, and often they act as torchbearers to the society participating in politics. Now, Kannaya Kumar can be classified as a gladiator because after the protest protest in JNU, he participated in politics in Bihar. Now, these protesters, we can classify them under transitional activists. They are not political apathetics because they were aware of what's going on in society and they are concerned about it. They have chosen not to be just as mere spectators, but they have chosen themselves to be as activists. Hence, they can be termed as transitional activists under types of political participation as classified by Lester Milbrath. Now, in the topic protest, agitation, social movements, collective action, and revolution, we try to see various forms of collective actions. First one is dissent. In the form of dissent, there is difference of opinion or disagreement with the government, except that nothing can be seen in the dissent. It is not crystallized, it is not expressed, or it is not demonstrated in any form. Just difference of opinion exists in society. Suppose I am there. Suppose I do not like the vaccination policy of the government. That can be termed as dissent because I am not demonstrating my dissent anywhere. I'm not mobilizing masses in support of my opinion, or I'm not trying to protest against the government through my because of my dissent. Hence, that difference of opinion or disagreement with the government or government policies can be termed as dissent. Now, protest is something in which crystallization of dissenting opinion happens. This is open expression of dissent. In this type of classification, consciousness of injustice and deprivation can be seen. This deprivation can be absolute deprivation or relative deprivation. Often, relative deprivation plays major role in protest. In this protest, opposition is central. Reaction to an event that has already occurred happens in protest. Suppose this Citizenship Amendment Act that has already occurred, the act has been already enacted or amended, and these protests which these people are doing are reacting to the event that has already occurred. Now, in type of agitation, there will be more intense activity. Purpose is central here. In protest, opposition is central, whereas in agitation, purpose is central. Now, here, these people have opposition as central to their activities because they are opposing the Citizenship Amendment Act. They do not have any purpose in precise, whereas in education, purpose is central. Some positive action they seek from the government. Now, under collective actions, these dissent, protest, agitation, social movements, revolutions all come under these collective actions. Collective actions are nothing but actions by group of people with specific goal or objective. That means they intend to bring out some specific goal or some specific outcome from the government, and they strive for that specific outcome from the government. These collective actions can be classified as crowd action, public action, mass action, or mass movement or social movement. In crowd movement or crowd action, emotion is central. That means people participating in such kind of action have emotion in common. They all get emotive to particular event, and they all express that particular emotion in that crowd event, that crowd action. In public action, issue is common because all the people participating in that public action have some issue in common. They are fighting for some issue. There may be various way outs for each individual, but the cause for their fighting is single issue, common issue. In mass action, the propaganda is through mass media or print media or etc. It happens in it is not particularly concerned about the interactions between the people participating in the movement, but it is concerned about the means through which that movement is propagated. Now, Me Too movement comes under this mass action or mass movement because Me Too movement happened on social media. Now, another type is social movement. In this social movement, ideology is central. In protest, opposition is central. In agitation, purpose is central. In social movement, ideology is central. Source of social change. These social movements often act as source of social change, and hence, social movements are important sources of study for sociology. In social movement, collective mobilization through either formal or informal organization takes place. These are oriented towards bringing about change in the existing system, according to M.S. Rao. They are not merely opposition or reaction to an event that has already occurred, but they are intended to bring change in the existing system. Suppose Sati movement or child marriages movement, etc. All these are social movements. They are intended to bring about change in the existing system. Now, we go on to study the social movements in further detail and try to find whether this particular reaction by these individuals come under the category of protest or social movement. Let's see. Now, nature of social movements is it is collectivity with continuity to promote or resist change, according to Turner and Kilhan. It is collective action. That means people mobilize in collectivity with common goal, with common ideology, because ideology is central in social movement. And this common collective action happens in continuity. It is sustained and not sporadic. It is not one of a time or one of a moment reaction, but it happens in continuity. it uh, it is a long term movement. Social movement is, it is not merely just once in a while they come into action and they disappear again. Once in a while they come into action and then they disappear. It is not such kind of movement. Social movements happen in sustained manner, and they are not sporadic in nature. No set of rules nor fixed structure nor hierarchy exists in social movements. Suppose cooperative movements, these are institutional movements. They have a specific set of rules to operate. uh, they have specific fixed structure, and there is a fixed hierarchy to operate in such movements. But social movements, there is no hierarchy. We cannot say that I am superior to and you should obey my orders. It is just that social movements are carried on by the guiding principles of leaders. These leaders just guide the people in particular direction. They just stress again and again what their goal is, and they just try to propagate their ideas to the masses. That's all. And existence of leaders doesn't necessarily mean that there is hierarchy in social movements. In social movements, hierarchy is not necessary, and fixed structure is not necessary, set of rules is not necessary. Social movements are not eternal in nature. Often there is a purpose or there is a cause for social movement, and after that objective is achieved, they tend to dissolve. For example, in Sati movement or child marriages movement. After the sati has been burned, social movement, that sati movement has been dissolved. These social movements occur in both liberal and authoritarian societies. It is not necessarily that social movements occur only in liberal societies because there is a avenue for people to express their concerns, or it is not necessary that in authoritarian societies social movements are not there because people are mostly politically apathetic. It's not like that. These social movements occur both in liberal and authoritarian societies also. Social movements are birthed with an initiating event, says Neil Smelser. Because in America also, Rosa Parks initiated a movement that discrimination for Rosa Parks. That incident and in that particular day that Rosa Parks has met initiated that movement in America. Like that, in social movements, some spark would be there, some triggering factor would be there, some initiating event would happen, which triggers social movement. It is not necessarily that that social movement has born only with that moment. And before that event, there is no consciousness of the injustice happening in the society, nothing like that. Before that event also there is consciousness of the injustice happening in the society, and that consciousness turns into popular movement. That mobilization happens only after that initiating event. That is the nature of social movement. Now, going to conditions for origin of social movements, there must be effort by a large number of people. Large number of people must put their efforts to bring change in the society or to resist any change in the society. People must understand the problem. Firstly, what problem is existing in the society, they must clearly understand, and what injustice is happening in the society, they must be able to comprehend. That problem must be observable. It is not that problem must be hidden behind the veils or driven under the carpet. That problem must be clearly visible, and it must be observable even by the masses of the society. That problem must be objective, even if people are conscious about it or not. That problem must be there. It must not be subjective in nature. There must be consciousness of the problem. This we have already discussed. Now, life cycle of social movements. If we see in stage one, social unrest and collective tension happens. In stage two, this collective tension is witnessed. This collective excitement is witnessed by everybody. It comes glaring into the light. This movement gains support and guiding ideology. Now, masses tend to give their or extend their support to this movement in stage two. In stage three, formalization stage, this is that means fundraising is systematized and ideology becomes clearer. Strategy and tactics for protest and for action are drawn in this stage. In the stage four, institutionalization, that means movement is crystallized into definite pattern. What are the aims of movement become accepted in the society. In formalization, these aims of movement, what must be what actions must be taken, what must be the tactics, whether guerrilla tactics or violence, or peace or satyagraha, these tactics are formalized in stage 3. Now in stage 4, these tactics are known to everyone, and their aims have almost aims do almost gain legitimacy or sanctity by the people in stage 4. That means institutionalization happens in stage 4. Internalization into the society of their aims also happens in stage 4. In stage 5, dissolution after achieving objective, while some dissolve even before. And that means some social movements do not dissolve until they gain or until they uh, achieve some objective or that objective which they are fighting, whereas some social movements often dissolve even before achieving their objective because of social control tactics uh, uh, given by the government. Now these are the 5 stages or life cycle of social movements. Moving on to vital elements of social movements, these must be there for as vital elements for an event to be called as a social movement. That means an ideology must be there, specific ideology, whether leftist ideology or rightist ideology, whether inclusive ideology or exclusive ideology, whether libertarian ideology or conservative ideology, whether all-encompassing ideology or particularistic ideology. These specific ideology must be there in social movements. Social movements must be driven by collective mobilization. The movements which are led by individuals cannot be termed as social movements. Collective mobilization must be there in the society for a movement to be called a social movement. For social movement, organization must be there. And that means specific aims must be there, specific goals for movement must be there, specific tactics and strategy must be driven. Only then it can be called as social movement. And for social movement, leadership must be there. Some guiding principle must be there to guide the people and to show a path to the people in which they have to move. Only if these vital elements are there, we can term an event, or we can term an agitation as, or we can term a collective action as social movement. Unless these vital elements, it cannot be called as social movements. Now, factors to the origins of social movement as expressed by M.S. Rao. First one is relative deprivation. Suppose some sections of population are discriminated or deprived against opportunities or access to better livelihood, that is termed as relative deprivation. And such relative deprivation often calls social movement, and that is where social movements are born. Now, in Citizenship Amendment Act also, Muslims are relatively deprived when compared to other religious communities of foreign countries. Hence, relative deprivation is there here. Second one is structural strain. Now, people have their aspirations growing. When those growing aspirations are not being met with the policies of the government or existing social structure, then there exists some kind of strain in the society. With that structural strain, social movements begin. We have seen many moments in the past also for gender movements, gender equality movements, etc. Now, women are aspiring for better placement in the society or better status in the society. If that status is not being given by the existing social structure, then exists some structural strain in the society, and that leads to social movements. Third one is revitalization. That means in this kind of situation, people have alternative society in their mind. That means alternative solutions have the alternative solutions are there in the minds of the people. With those alternative solutions, people fight. Example, Anna Hazare movement or anti-corruption movement. Anna Hazare had alternative solution for the problem of corruption. That kind of movement can be said as said because of set from the origins of revitalization. Now, moving apart from social movement, there is another kind of collective action, that is revolution. Revolution is nothing but fundamental change in political power or organizational structures. Fundamental change in political power. This is the French Revolution is fundamental change in political power or organizational structures. This is Industrial Revolution has seen fundamental change in organizational structure. In short period of time, when population rises up in revolt against the authorities, this is radical change. Now, definitely, our what these people are doing is definitely not revolution, because they are not aspiring for radical change, and they are not aspiring for fundamental change in political power or organizational structure. Hence, revolution is far apart from our discussion. We only have concern whether these activities, what these activists are doing, come under protest or social movements. We have seen in detail what social movements is, nature of social movements. We discussed conditions for origin of social movements, life cycle of social movements. We discussed vital elements of social movements also we discussed. Now, if we want to categorize these activities under social movements, vital elements are ideology. Specific ideology is there, yes. Leftist ideology, all inclusive ideology. Muslims must be given equal status with other religious communities, hence ideology is there. Collective mobilization, yes, it is partly there. Organization, it is not there. Leadership, it is not there. There is no specific leader for these movements, hence vital elements of social movements are not satisfied in this particular example. So these activities cannot be called as social movements. Further, if we observe life cycle of social movements also, social unrest and collective action is there, collective tension is there. This collective excitement is witnessed in the society. Movement gains support and guiding ideology, it is there. But instead, the formalization, fundraising activities is not systematized. Ideology is not clear, because many people still don't understand why these people are protesting. What problem they exactly have with the Citizenship Amendment Act, many people don't understand. Forget about illiterate or even literate and educated sections of the populations also don't exactly know what problem exists with Citizenship Amendment Act. That means ideologies has not yet become clearer. Strategy and tactics for protest also they have not yet devised. They are just coming out once in a while, and they are just expressing their dissent against the government. Institutionalization also has not yet happened. That means definite pattern is not yet crystallized. They have no specific pattern how to fight against the government. Aims of movement become accepted in this. This is not yet accepted in the society yet. The range of movement is to include in society also there are large divisions among the people. Some support CAA, some oppose CAA. Hence, aims of movement have not yet been widely accepted in the society. Hence, these activities what these people are doing are still in stage two. This is formalization that have not yet happened. Institutionalization has not yet happened. These conditions for origin of social movements also effort is there by large number of people to quash amendment to Citizenship Act. Understand the problem? No, masses have not understood the problem yet. Problem must be observable? No, problem is not yet observable. It becomes observable only in the long term after the demographics of the population are clearly visible after some in the census after some decades. Hence, problem is not yet observable. Problem must be objective. Yes, it is problem must be objective. Whether or not people are conscious of the problem, it is there in the society. Consciousness of the problem, it is not yet properly there. Hence, there are not even proper conditions for origin of social movement also in this particular example. Effort is there, but understanding the problem and problem observability is not yet there. Nature of social movements, a collectivity with continuity is not there. It is not sustained and it is sporadic. That's why this cannot be called as social movement. Hence, we have seen various aspects of social movements. If we also categorize these people as transitional activists, and this can for now this activities done by these people against the Citizenship Amendment Act can be termed under protest only, and they cannot be termed under social movement. Many people tend to confuse that they come under social movement, but they do not yet come under social movement. The reason we have already discussed in nature, in origin, in life cycle, in vital elements, etc. Relative deprivation is there. That means there is a factor for origin of social movement, and also in the life cycle this social movement is perceived can perceive to be emerging, as there are further stages in the social movement to evolve, and also there are certain conditions to be satisfied still, and there are some aspects of nature of social movements to be satisfied yet. These are not yet social movements, these are just protest for now. They have potential to be emerged as social movements. Moving on, in the next article we have something reported as saying honored for ending period poverty. Amika George received an MBE for her campaign for free menstrual products. Now, this particular article we can relate in our syllabus to stratification and mobility or gender related issues. In stratification and mobility, let us see the contents of the article first. Miss George, who crusades for free hygiene products for girls living in poverty with no access to menstrual products. That means access to menstrual products. Access is a topic in our chapter. Relative deprivation is there. This inequality of access to opportunities leads to uh, social unrest in the society. Imal Durkheim says it leads to forced division of labor. Imal Durkheim says further, it seemed unfair that a natural biological process was responsible for girls falling behind. That means it is hindering their mobility, upward mobility. To imagine being absent from school hit me. Free periods campaign. Uh, uh, in this article, it is said that Amika George has received many mails. In those mails, their families struggled to afford 2 square meals, and they knew there wasn't money for sanitary napkins. In particular, she remembered one girl who wrote that every month she searched her parents' wallets or behind boxes and sofas for coins to buy pads and felt embarrassed asking for help or talking about periods to her friends. Now, this explains the grave situation that uh, one gender or one sex of our society is facing, especially poor girls. They are still facing this relative deprivation, and they are facing this resistance for their upward mobility in the ladder status. If we study the concept stratification of mobility, this comes under social exclusion. That means deprivation of resources or of social links. These girls, poor girls, are deprived of their economic resources to earn their better livelihoods, or of social links, because in this period, menstrual period, those 5 days, girls are being deprived of social links with the wider society. Now, nature of social exclusion, we have seen this article already. It is systematic. It is a result of structural features, regardless of the wishes of the excluded. Now, those poor girls who could not afford sanitary napkins, they do not wish to be excluded, but they are being excluded because of the structural features in the society. Those structural features may be taboo against menstruation, or uh, some kind of mental construct of the people for menstruation, etc. Deprivation is there in social exclusion. Deprivation of opportunities, access. We have seen here free hygiene products for girls living in poverty with no access to menstrual products. Hence, deprivation of access is there. Further, because of no access to menstrual products, they are being deprived of access to education and access to health also. Hence, deprivation is certainly there. Next, prolonged exclusion leads to reaction against inclusion. This is nature of social exclusion. It is not concerned about here. Exclusion is not always deprivation, and inclusion is not always justice. This is also not relevant here. With respect to mobility, mobility is nothing but movement of a person from one social status to another. Types of mobility, if you see, horizontal mobility is when the earlier status is equal to the current status. Vertical mobility is something where earlier status is different to the current status. When the current status is greater than the earlier status, it is upward mobility. When the current status is less than the earlier status, it is downward mobility. Now, mobility largely happens in the immediate ranks in the hierarchy, says Caldrop. Now, because of the deprivation of access to their sanitary napkins and access to education, that particular a period poverty, as it is reported here, is hindering those poor girls from upward mobility. Uh, these forms of mobility may be intergenerational, or structural. Causes or factors of mobility, if you see, primary factors are demographic, that means age, sex, race, etc. Now, because those girls who are experiencing period poverty could not move up the ladder, that means could not experience upward mobility, they are apparently being experiencing downward mobility, are being static in the position where they are, though they have talent or though they have ability. Hence, this kind of hindrance to mobility can be termed as demographic. That is because of their sex and because of their age per se being in the age of menstruation, and sex being girls. They are experiencing hindrance to mobility, or they are experiencing downward mobility in some cases. General factors to mobility also we have seen: industrialization, education, social capital and social status, occupation, social and cultural values. Now, these social and cultural values is the reason for the downward mobility instead of upward mobility. That means liberal or conservative values. Because our society has conservative values and many societies have conservative values, that means there is a taboo against menstruation, and there is some kind of rancor in the society against menstruation. There are stereotypes against menstruation. Because of those factors, girls are facing hindrance to upward mobility, and they are facing downward mobility. When it comes to poor girls, the situation is further worse because of these social and cultural values. Hence, this kind of downward mobility or hindrance to upward mobility can be termed as saying because of the factor of demographic and social and cultural values. All the rest of the factors are irrelevant in this particular article.